In this video we're going to look at the general equation of a straight line. So the general equation of a straight line is y is equal to, the general equation of a straight line is y is equal to mx plus c. And this is where m is the gradient and c is what's called the y-intercept. So m, we looked at in a previous video, is how we find our gradient. So the gradient is the slope of a line. If it is more slope, so if it is greater gradient, then the m will be a higher number. A small slope, a shallow slope if you imagine, then the gradient will be a small number. And c is where your line crosses the y-axis. So the y-intercept, so where it crosses the y-axis. So if we know this formula, y is equal to mx plus c, if you see a line written in this form, then you can determine what its gradient is and what its intercept is. Instead of having to actually draw out your line and so on using your table of values, you can just look at the general equation, and if you know this equation here, then you can decide what the gradient is and what the intercept is. So it makes it very, very easy indeed. Okay, in this example, for example, it says the line, and the line we're talking about here is y is equal to 2y plus 4. So you can see clearly it has a gradient of 2, because 2 is the number which is in front of the x, and it has an intercept value of 4. So that means it crosses 4 on the y-axis, i.e. the intercept is at 0, 4. The next line, we've got y is equal to 1/3 minus 10. So clearly the number in front of the x is 1/3, so the gradient is 1/3, and the intercept value is minus 10, because you've y is equal to 1/3 x minus 10. So minus 10 is equivalent to the plus c. So the intercept is at minus 10. Okay, this next bit is the most important bit of your notes here. So can you highlight this bit? So it says the equation must always be in the form y equals mx plus c before extracting the gradient and intercept. So if it's not in that form, what you need to do is you need to rearrange it first. So just remember, bear that in mind, and we'll look at a couple examples here of how we actually do this. Okay, in this example, it says state the gradient and position of the intercept of these lines. So here, it's in the form, remember, I'll just write down my general equation again. My general equation is y is equal to mx plus c, where m is equal to the gradient and c is equal to the y-intercept. And remember, if it's not in that form, y equals mx plus c, as you'll see in example C and example D, you have to rearrange first. But in this case, it is in this form, so y equals 3x plus 2, so your m is equal to 3 and your c is equal to 2. So that means your point C is 0, 2, and in this one, your m is equal to minus 2 and your c is equal to minus 7. So we're going to put our point, our intercept as a coordinate as well. It's going to be 0, minus 7. Okay, in this one, in part C, just put a wee asterisk and we just say rearrange the equation to give. So we need to notice in all of these, in the general equation, y is the subject because it's y equals mx plus c. So if you rearrange the equation, this positive x has to go across the other side, so it will become y is equal to minus x plus 5. And then it's easy enough for you to see that your m is a number that's multiplying the x, remember? And this really is equivalent to minus 1 in this case. And then your c is equal to 5, so your c is 0, 5. And your last example here, again, you want to rearrange and just say it becomes y is equal to, this minus 2x comes across and becomes positive 2, and this plus 10 comes across and becomes minus 10. So in this case, your m is equal to 2, and your c is equal to minus 10, which is the same as 0, minus 10. Okay, this example says sketch the following lines. Now before I do this, because we have to sketch them all on the same, you can see if to sketch them all on the same axis, I want to see where they are, because if you were just sketching them on separate axes, it wouldn't really matter, to be honest, quite often how you draw the slope, because it is just a sketch. So you just have to indicate a positive gradient is going up from the left to the right, remember, and negative gradient is going down as you move to the left to right. But if you're drawing three lines on the same axes, the one with the biggest gradient has to be the steepest line, the one with the smallest gradient has to be the shallowest line. So before we do anything here, what we want to do is find our gradients, write down our gradients and our intercepts. So in this one, my m is equal to 2, my gradient is 2, my intercept is 5. This one, I'll need to do a wee bit of work before I do anything else. I'll need to rearrange to get it in the form y equals mx plus c. That's very easy to do in this one. I'm just changing the minus 3 and the 7, the order of them around, so it's y equals minus 3x plus 7. And then it's easy for me to see m is equal to minus 3 and my c is equal to 7. The last one, wee bit trickier to sort it out. I'll need to rearrange and bring the 2x across, so it becomes y equals minus 2x plus 10. And then here, my m is equal to minus 2 and my c is equal to 10. So my intercepts were 5, 7 and 10. So it's just roughly where I'm putting them. I'll mark on my y-axis, mark on my x-axis. And the one that had a gradient, an intercept of 5, also had a gradient of 2. So it's the only one with a positive gradient in actual fact. So there we are, I've just done it. It's got a gradient of 2, so that was my A line, which was y is equal to 2x plus 5. My line B, it was cut through minus 7, and it had a gradient of minus 3. Sorry, I'm trying to do this, but a ruler, this is not easy doing it on this wee device. So that is my B line, which was y is equal to, and I'm writing it in its original form, which was 7 minus 3x. And then my last one, and notice as well, its gradient is, it goes through 10 on the y-axis, but its gradient is minus 2. So its gradient should be more shallow than the last gradient that I have just done, the last line that I have just done. So do your best to make it like that, please. So more shallow again, and there I've done one there. So that's C. It's my line C, which was, and again I'm writing it in its original form, 2x plus y is equal to 10. So there you have it, folks. We know if you have your general equation of a line in the form y equals mx plus c, it's very easy to read out of what your gradient is. The gradient is just the thing that's in front of the x, and then your intercept is just a number that's being added or subtracted at the end. But the key thing here is, if it is not in the form y equals mx plus c, you must bring everything or everything else to one side. So you've got definitely have it in the form y equals mx plus c, and then you can easily read off what your gradient is and what your intercept is.